My lord, how was your trip?
I think it was successful.
You just can't wait, can you?
To destroy Richard? No.
Remind me never to cross you. Perhaps I should reconsider.
Reconsider what? Marrying me? I doubt you'll do that. You like power far too much.
And you think it's all very simple, don't you, huh? Just a little matter of killing a king. Well, if Richard dies, Prince John will claim the throne. By comparison, your claim is slight. Unless you think sharing Richard's bed for a few years gave you some kind of divine right.
I would have been queen but for the lies that were told.
Lies? My love. You don't expect me to believe that you didn't poison Princess Alice.
Richard wanted her dead. He loved me.
And then he didn't.
Richard is a coward. But come, my love. Let's not argue. Ooh. News came while you were away that Richard's planning to return. Did you meet Sir Cedric's charge?
Yes. Charming girl.
I hear she's very beautiful. She presents an interesting opportunity, don't you think?
How so?
Well, if you were to marry the Lady Rowena...
Marry her?
She's a direct descendant from King Alfred. If you were to marry her, you would have an undeniable claim on all of those Saxon lands you've taken. Even if King Richard did come back, he wouldn't be able to take them away from you. You'd also have a claim on Saxon affections.
What about us?
There'd be plenty of time for us. After you become a widower.
Another murder?
Mon amour. You're forgetting how you got where you are today. With murder, my love.
Got next coming up, Margot Kidder, who gave us a wonderful interview and told us about her journey into the rabbit hole. Coming up, Margot Kidder.
Yeah. But I want to welcome you to Powerhouse Radio. I hope you're part of a wonderful group of people from the film business, but also we have doctors, healers, naturopaths, and the whole nature of health and healing, which is certainly a topic that interests me a great deal. And I know you've gone through your own journey towards healing, you know. So, but let's begin a little bit with your career. And I got involved with Natural Health Freedom Canada a few months back. I don't know if you know this, but there's been an assault on the alternative health industries from Health Canada here in this country. It's been going on for a while. They're taking vitamins.
Did it start when Harper got elected? I mean,
well, it actually began before that. It began before that, but really the kicker was about 2010. They tried to pass Bill C-51. I don't know if you know about that. And
yes, I did follow that.
Yeah, and it was repealed by 750,000 signatures throughout Canada. You know, people want to use vitamins and herbs and supplements. And then they snuck it into Bill C-36 and got it through without people knowing it. And they implemented something called the UPLAR. And the UPLAR is a registration number that every single substance is going to have, approved by Health Canada. It's called an NPN number.
And they're going to run out in the fields of echinacea and put the number on the flowers?
Exactly, and on the garlic and on the oregano and on everything else. The end result, Margot, is they've removed almost 40,000 vitamins, herbs, and supplements from the market since 2010. And of February 2013, 80% of all the vitamins and herbs on Canadian health food stores will, unless they get this NPN number, some of which take 8 years, will be removed. So it's quite serious for people that, you know, for people's health. And I think it's a very important topic. And I know other people, you know, are concerned about this. So, you know, we're trying to get the information out to the public that as of February 2013, you know, they're going to lose most of their vitamins and herbs, and they'll be replaced by low potency, you know, ones that will be put out by the.
And what about bringing them across the border?
Well, you won't, if they don't have an NPN number, you won't be allowed to.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, look, Margot, SWAT teams have been sent into health food stores. Dr. Eldon
You've
Dahl.
got to be kidding.
No, Dr. Eldon Dahl, who's a wonderful healer, naturopath.
Right.
He was his family was held at gunpoint for 8 hours by a SWAT team.
Oh.
And
what happened to Canada? It just is no longer Canada.
No, it's not.
You know, when you live down here, you think of it in these idealistic terms. And then I went up last year to help my brother, who was running for Parliament as a Liberal, and I was so shocked at how changed it was.
Well,
deeply shocked.
If you read Mel Hertig or see him on YouTube, he's a wonderful Canadian author, writer. He wrote a book called The Betrayal of Canada.
Right.
And he's written many, many books, and he will explain what's been happening to Canada, is that basically it's being taken over by corporatist agendas.
Sure, the whole world is.
Yeah, the whole world is, exactly. And Canada is now a battleground. And as Canada goes, because they've already passed this legislation in Europe, you can't get vitamin C in Costa Rica. You can only get 50 milligrams.
And you see, one of the odd things is this country being run by corporatists and being a corporatist country.
Yeah, but there's a constitution.
There was a law that was passed by Orrin Hatch, a Republican.
Yeah.
And you can't attack the health food store stuff.
That's right, because of the Constitution. Because Jonathan Emord, constitutional lawyer that we had on the show, took on the FDA 8 times and won on constitutional grounds.
Ah.
And that Constitution has been protecting, you know, the health industries in the United States.
But even before that, I have to tell you that I would go to Canada and I use something because I'm too manic a lot of the time. And I have dealt with what they call it manic depression. I don't
all
use
the
those
usual
labels, whatever you want to call it. And there's something called GABA, which is gamma-aminobutyric acid, and it's a very specific inhibitor of dopamine and norepinephrine, both of which make you kind of speed up. And I use it to help go to sleep. I use it when I'm getting a little too jumped out of shape. And it does. It's what Valium attacks the same receptors. The same receptors. And in Canada, you can't get it. Now, there's one drugstore I know of in Toronto, which I won't mention on the air, where the guy will go, yes, it's ridiculous, I'll go in the back and get you some and give it to you. But GABA you can't get in Canada, you can here, but you can get in Canada tryptophan? Yeah, tryptophan.
No, you can't anymore.
You can't anymore
L-tryptophan.
Because you couldn't get it here. You could get a prescription, but in Montana nobody'd fill it.
Well, yeah.
And you could get it in Canada.
And as you know, it's made from turkey. It's the stuff that makes you sleepy. Well,
exactly, and it goes to 5-HTP, and then with enzymes and cofactors, it goes to serotonin. So
that's right.
Instead of taking Prozac, you can take tryptophan.
Well, exactly. And recently they've taken it off the shelf. We had an incident where a health food inspector went in, and even though the L-tryptophan has an EN number, which is a temporary number, he took it off the shelves because you're only allowed 250, and the label said 300, but 50 of that was vitamin C, and he couldn't tell the difference. So even though it was officially
God, this is horrible and shocking, because you know as well as I do that what's behind all of these attacks on the health industry, and they've started it here. There's mumblings the FDA has to approve everything, and the FDA is so screwed it's just run by that it is again the corporatizing of North America. It's getting more profits for the pharmaceutical companies, and that's all it's about. Because your drug prices have also gone up, which I noticed, because I used to get prescriptions here and then get them filled in Vancouver. Well, now you can't fill anything in Canada that's from the United States. It's against the law. I just tried it in Sault Ste. Marie.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. You can't get a prescription in the States and get it filled in Canada anymore, against the law. But I used to be able to take the prescription from Montana to Vancouver and get it filled there for about a quarter of the price.
This is a worldwide phenomenon, Margot.
And it's not, you can't do that anymore. And not only that, the prices in Canada are going up.
That's right.
They're not dirt low like they used to be.
No, because the whole system is corporatizing, and all our rights are being eliminated. And this is because of the, what was passed through the, something called the Codex Alimentarius, which was passed through at the United Nations, and the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization have standardized all foods and supplements and vitamins, and they have declared that foods are drugs. So garlic is now...
What?
Yes, garlic is now a drug, and so is oregano.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so like in New Zealand, you can't grow oregano because it's against, and not only that...
So then what we're going to end up with is what we've had for years with the marijuana industry, illegal growers.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's what happened to Dr. Dahl.
I'm going to be one of the first on the list. Maybe I could get rich after blowing all my money.
Yeah, you know what?
I've already got tons of echinacea in my garden. The United States, there's a law that says if you know that all poppies can produce opium, you're not allowed to grow them. But if you don't know it, you can grow them.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So if you don't know oregano is actually good for you and you take it and it cures your cold, then it's all right.
There you go.
Yeah,
you go.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think gardens are going to be coming back in style in a big way.
Well, yes, up to an extent, except that recently a woman in the States somewhere was arrested for having an organic garden.
What?
Yes. Apparently there was some local law about gardening, and the sheriff actually showed up at her door, and I don't know if she was arrested but
wow.
Just like the raw milk situation where that guy that was producing raw milk was arrested. It's craziness, and it really is an indication.
Well, it's money. It's called follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. And Canada used to be a place where you could sort of escape that because there was enough socialism in certain programs where it didn't exist. But you're going to go down the toilet really quickly.
Well, I think it was
for all the same reasons we're already in the toilet.
That's right. I mean, I think in many ways it was the best of the socialists and the capitalists put together. So it was really functioning. Certainly during the Trudeau years, who you knew and I knew as well, one of the great political minds of our time. But since then, the corporatists like Mulrooney and now Harper have taken over. And the Alberta tar sands have recently basically been sold out to every corporation outside of Canada, and now they have sovereignty over Canadian law. So
but that's something that Obama secretly signed.
Right. Yes.
Yes, because we have a big thing going here. I got arrested over this issue.
Oh, yeah.
They have a big thing here where they're claiming eminent domain in Montana on these ranchers. They're offering them $1 a foot, which is nothing, to dig up their land and probably pollute it forever. And so people who are standing ground on their own land are being arrested for trespassing against Trans-Canada Pipeline.
Right.
It's become insane.
Well, do you know about
There's
agenda?
no border. What's interesting politically is that the United States has a history of grassroots revolution or whatever you want to call it, and Canada doesn't. It's very top-down in Canada. And so Canadians are just starting to wake up to the power of that, and it's going to be interesting to see if the young kids in their 20s act on it.
Well, they are. I spoke to a young man out in Victoria who organized an organization called We Are Change. We interviewed him last week. Gave an extraordinary interview, and this is the second year that they've had a demonstration in front of the legislature, and they bring in speakers from all over Canada, and the young people are waking up. The young people are very aware of it.
Canada has some incredible orthomolecular doctors, way more than down here.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I was just doing a movie in Sault Ste. Marie, and the doctor, I have horrible arthritis, and and we were running around in army helmets and guns and all sorts of things as if we were 18.
Tell you, I love
the
fact.
Brutal.
Yeah, I think it's great you're doing it. I mean, how about
well,
your
I
grandparents?
just got back, and my chiropractor saw me last week and sent me for an X-ray and went, "What happened to your back?"
Oh my God.
At any rate, the doctor that we were to go to through the company knew all about orthomolecular and practiced it when he could and was really wonderful. And then the chiropractor we got to go to got to use acupuncture and massage and chiropractic practices. He was the best chiropractor I've ever been to in my life. And he also knew all about nutrients. And so in Canada, there are so many wonderful practicing physicians. I go to a doctor who's 2 hours away practically here because he's the only one in Montana who does both alternative medicine and regular medicine.
Yeah, there are some
so
wonderful...
Canada, if you could organize those doctors, you might have a good, strong force. I mean, this chiropractor was a miracle with the three of us, Seymour Cassell and Lou Gossett Jr. and I, after a day of being tortured, basically, in these army outfits, weigh 100 pounds, trying to run and jump, and none of us could run and jump. We're all old.
The actor's life.
He was just absolutely extraordinary.
Well, you know, we need these healers, and we need artists like yourself, and we need creativity, and we need positive growth. You know, and there are healers, and there is a solution, and there is a possibility for healing, you know, and the whole thing.
Do you have medical marijuana laws in Canada?
Yeah, they have medical marijuana laws in British Columbia. As far as I know, Canada was one of the first.
We do in Montana. I've got a card. Unfortunately, I can't tolerate marijuana, but
right.
Yeah.
It's a very effective painkiller and has a lot of medicinal.
Well, it's funny. The first time I had it, I mean, I had it when I was a kid, but I haven't had it since. I took some in cooking oil, and I literally watched the inflammation in about 20 minutes disappear from my wrists and my fingers.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It was extraordinary.
Yeah. The other thing that is wonderful is turmeric, which I have used for inflammation. I had a and now orthomolecular, which I find incredible. And
it is incredible. It's so logical. The thing about orthomolecular, and the reason the doctors who did it, and Dr. Hoffer, who became my doctor for a while, who died, who sort of founded the Canadian part of the movement back in the 50s, is it's so scientifically logical that you can't refute it. And they did have studies. The reason the government keeps saying, oh, there's no studies to back
tons
this up.
of
Well, there
studies.
are.
Tons of studies in
do double-blind
universities.
studies.
Yeah.
Because it was immoral. Looked about 10 years ago as if Canada was going to be the country that broke through and made it mainstream.
Took a left turn at Albuquerque.
Pharmaceutical company got really nervous. I was on the speech thing. I had a big nervous breakdown in public and got diagnosed again, manic depressive. And got better with orthomolecular medicine and acupuncture, and regular shrinks would say that's not possible.
We had somebody else on the show who healed himself. With orthomolecular medicine, who was in a mental ward and the whole bit, and healed himself, actually smuggled the vitamins in. Yeah,
because you're not allowed to have vitamins in the
mental institution. And he healed himself.
Well, what was fascinating is I would go on the speaker circuit, you know, for the mental health panels, but, well, they were all sponsored by the drug industry.
That's
so
right.
I'd be getting checks from Pfizer, but I was speaking against the drug, saying, look, here's the side effects of Depakote, for example. One of them is death, and I didn't really want that one, and da-da-da-da. And so very quickly, after a year or two, bingo, I was never invited to speak again about mental health.
Well, you know, where you've got vested interest and money is behind it, you've got a lot of problems. You know,
look at the oil industry. Look what we're fighting here in energy. And look at the amount of sickness that there is, not just right beside the tar sands, but for all the places the water goes from the tar sands. There's cancer types coming up that no one's ever seen before.
I know.
Alberta is just shameless.
And it's going to get worse. You know, there was a Chinese emperor, I forget his name, who passed a law in China that the doctors of China would be paid as long as you were healthy. Mm-hmm. And they would stop being paid when you were unhealthy, and they had to treat you.
Except that I was in China about...
No, this is thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I know, but I was in China, And I went to a mental institution in China, which was forbidden, but somebody smuggled me in. It was heartbreaking. And they had switched from Chinese medicine and acupuncture, which makes people well, to giving everybody. They all had something called mental disorder, no matter what it was. They were gay. People have been in there 17, 18 years. There was a little 13-year-old boy with his arms permanently tied behind his back because he'd been bashing his head or something. They were all using Thorazine, Chinese-made Thorazine. And I went to an acupuncturist because after touring the Forbidden City, my knee was really hurting. And he said most of his clients now are foreigners because they're trying to switch the whole Chinese system over to this ridiculous pharmaceutical model.
Well, they're
no place is safe.
Yeah, well, they're just as corporatist as anybody else. In fact, they're becoming even progressively more corporatist.
Right.
The motto of our radio station is knowledge is power. That's what we're trying to do. Now, most people, I agree. Most people out there, of course, know you primarily for, the extraordinary, iconic character you created in Superman, i.e. Lois Lane.
Thank you, yeah.
Which brought you to international prominence. But you started out here in Toronto.
I started out in Montreal, Toronto. Started in Vancouver, then went to Toronto, and then went to L.A. when I was 18.
When you were 18, wow. And this was
But I felt very old at the time. I'd done 18 or 19. I'd done this wonderful movie with Peter Pearson directing, who's still a friend, called The Best Damn Fiddler from Calabogie to Caladar, for the NFB. And then I read an article about an agent who handled Canadians, so I wrote him a letter saying, here I am. And he wrote back saying, I'm sorry, I've never heard of you. And you're living in Montreal, which I was at that point. Sorry. So I took that as an invitation to go to L.A. And I got on the plane with $400. And he actually met me and took me for interviews with Antonioni and Jewison. And I got a part in a movie the first week. But I was so young and stupid, I thought that was the norm.
That is so wonderful. I mean,
I was so dumb.
Yeah, but, well, the innocence.
Only at 18 could you do something like that.
That's right. Innocence and naivete really has a lot.
Yeah.
But particularly innocence. And when you go into it with innocence, you Antonioni, of course, and Jewison is about the very top. But you worked with Brian De Palma in a cult.
I did indeed, and lived with them too.
In 1973, right?
Right.
And what was that like, actually?
He was wonderful. He's actually a very, very, very funny man. He's one of the funniest men on the planet. So we laughed a lot. He loves actors and acting. His whole focus was about acting. And he loves the psychology of stuff, oddly, as you can tell by his movies. He likes that which is a little off-center. It was a joy. I mean, he's wonderful.
And you and I appeared in what is now a cult classic. I didn't appear in it. I was the voice in a picture called Black Christmas in 1973.
Oh, you were the voice.
Yes, that was me.
It's
me,
I never
Billy.
knew that.
Well, I was one of the voices. Bob Clark was the other voice, and an actress. What was her name? A Canadian actress. Now I've blanked on her name. But the three of us were the voice of Billy. And I did it by, I was, I think, 19. I did it standing on my head to compress the thorax. So, it's me, Billy.
That is a cult classic, because I go to these Comic-Cons and sign pictures, and the one everybody wants is Black Christmas.
That's right.
Pictures in Black Christmas.
It was the first slasher movie and it really kind of announced what is now a major mega industry of these billion-dollar horror movies. Which
they did remakes of all of those, but the remakes didn't work.
You were also in a classic as well. You were in Paul Mazursky's Willie and Phil, which I think is a 60s classic.
Was such a great director. Wow, he was wonderful.
I almost got to do that film, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Mike Onkeen ended up doing it, yeah.
Well, it was supposed to be John Hurd, who became my husband later, and he got so crazy about the idea of me having a love scene with another man, he flipped out and quit.
Oh, God.
It was appalling, yeah.
And that's why he quit. And that was very much of a kind of like a Bullion film from that period of time, dealing with,
It was a joy to make. Oh, my God, it was a joy.
And, of course, the other classic was the Amityville Horror,
which I have never understood. I think it's one of the worst movies in history.
But
I don't get it at all. I watch it. It seems stupid, and I don't know why anyone gets scared. And but I own part of it and get a nice check every year, so I'm not going to complain. But it is so strange to me. The popularity of that movie, it continues to baffle me.
Tremendous impact it had on sort of the unconscious, I guess you might say. And of course, you appeared on Saturday Night Live as well, which is
the worst guest host except for Chris Christopherson, I was told.
I doubt it.
I was so nervous.
Oh yeah.
But I came out at the dress rehearsal and I saw all these people and immediately had one of those stage fright, beyond stage fright. It's like a psychosis where you just freeze and don't remember your name and just sweat, that schizophrenic smelling sweat.
Oh, I know.
And so between the dress rehearsal and the show, I got some Valium and swallowed a handful of Valium, and the day came, out I walked, half stoned, going, live from New York, it's Saturday night, and Lauren was going to kill me out.
Oh, my God.
He wouldn't even speak to me at the party.
Oh, my God. Well, people have no idea how nerve-wracking it really is to stand up in front of a bunch of strangers.
And you're with professional comics, and being funny is hard enough anyway. And to go out there, there's this big audience, you're live, you're under a spotlight, you're supposed to do this monologue and make people laugh, but they've rewritten things right up to the last minute. So you are reading from cue cards some of the time, and it's nerve-wracking on a level you can't believe, or it was then. I don't think now they do the same thing that they did then of rewriting right up to the last minute. There are a lot more drugs involved when I did it. I think they're all clean and sober now.
Yeah, many are. But the thing is, it really just harkens to the idea of what the performer is and does. Mm-hmm. The concept of stage fright, people have no idea how. You say, well, you get up in front of a bunch of people now, and you try to play a character, and you're not that character. You're.
Now, Nick, I'd like you to help me. I want to figure out what that thing that's beyond stage fright, which is that psychotic thing where you just literally go blank. I had to stop doing anything theater-wise for 15 years because it went away when I entered menopause. And bingo, it was gone. Now, I'm not saying you don't get nervous. Of course you get nervous.
Yeah, but not to the point of paralysis.
Not to the point of paralysis.
It is. There's
and
a physical.
Nobody's ever figured out what or why. I know Carly Simon had it for a while, couldn't sing in public. Several, Barbara Streisand. It's a real thing where your body literally starts to pour sweat and your mind goes absolutely blank, and you go crazy. You stand there in a state of absolutely frozen craziness, waiting for the play to be over.
There's a wonderful film that was done by Bergman called Persona with Liv Ullmann.
Oh yeah.
About an actress who freezes mid-performance while she does Electra, and forgets her name and doesn't know who she is anymore. She ends up in recovery with B.B. Anderson. She has no personality.
I should look at that again.
Really dealing with the actor's nightmare. And let us pursue the path towards light and freedom, and thank you for being a shining example of that, Margot. I love you. I love you, and thanks for doing
love
this.
You too.
We've talked almost an hour, and thank you, my darling. We'll talk soon again. Take care.
Okay.
And thank you. Bye-bye.
This wine.
Mm-hmm.
This wine is made from the Nebbiolo grape. It's the finest grape in Italy. Huh? It tastes like the clay of the earth.
You talking dirty to me?
No, I'm not talking dirty to you. I'm talking about the clay in the earth. You know who used to drink this?
No.
The ancient Romans used to drink this.
You can't talk dirty to me. I don't want it. Let me. No. Don't tell Jack.